related to connecting to our EC2 instance that we launched earlier using PuTTY. Now, once you connect, right, you install your packages and you run the services, and you can host your own website by putting the basic files under the var www.html directory, right? So once your website is running, you decide to, your instance becomes valuable. So you think like, okay, I have installed the package, right? My volume is important. If I lose this volume, I lose my website. So you just, no, what did you do? You took a backup of your volume. We also looked at how to take backup of all the volumes associated with a particular instance, right? We also created EBS volume, additional EBS volume, right? And then attached to a instance. And after attaching that, we logged into the instance, and then we tried to mount that, right? By creating a file system in it. We created a file in that file system, right? That was for EBS volume. And for EFS, what we did, we had created EFS file system, right? And we had already attached it to our instance while we were creating the instance. So we went there and we saw, right, how to mount and unmount the EFS file system, right? By using mount command, we mounted. By using umount command, we unmounted. So you mount it, where you mount it, that is important. Once you mount it, right, you can have an entry in etc fstep file, right, so that it will be persistent across the reboot. When you reboot your system, whatever you have mounted by using mount command, that will vanish. Once your system is up, it will not be there. So for that, you are making an entry in etc fstep, right? For EFS, we also looked at how we can run the command from the command line by going to EFS file system, right? On the EFS dashboard, we have the option to click on attach and attach it. When you click on attach, right, what you will get? You'll get a command. That command you can directly run on the system, right, on a particular mount point. So all those things are there in the recordings, right? So if you have doubt or if you have missed the last part or something of the session, so please go through the recordings. Please try to do it. Do some hands-on on that, right? If you find any difficulty, I'll be there to help you out. Okay, so then we looked at snapshots, and today we'll be looking at AMI, right? So this AMI is a template. So just basic understanding of a AMI, just understand that it is a template to launch an instance. So it will have all the technical information required to launch an instance, whatever configuration is required, right? And it will contain operating system. What operating system you want to install? Say like you want Windows, you had a separate AMI. You had seen we have chosen Windows 2019, right? And then for Linux we have chosen Red Hat AMI, right? So you just choose a particular AMI, a template, which will contain what? The operating system, which may contain some additional softwares. Say like you have installed your HTTP, your Apache in your instance. Now you want to make AMI out of it. You require similar instances of your own, multiple instances in different availability zones. You can create AMI, use that AMI, right, to launch instance which will have everything that is there in your instance, the existing instance from which you are making that AMI. You want similar instances, you simply create AMI, right, and launch your instances, right? It contains the boot volume at the minimum. So say like your Red Hat AMI 10 GB, whatever size, that Windows AMI, you got it some 30 GB size for the boot volume. So you had only one volume associated, right? And that was the boot volume. We call it root volume, right? In which you have the operating system, right? Now it can contain additional volumes as well. Say like as of now, the instance that we are having how many? How many volumes? Rahul?
Two volume.
Two volumes are there, right?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
is like our root volume or boot volume, you call it. And then
Yes.
apart from that, we have 1 GB additional volume.
Additional one, yeah.
So that additional volume, whatever you are having, if you just create AMI out of your instance, and you will have a choice to keep that additional volume also if you want to give that to the other users who will be using it, or maybe whenever you want to launch, so you can keep that also, but that's not mandatory. It's up to you. Right? So what happens in AMI, right? You have your root volume. So you understand the concept of snapshot, right? So snapshot will be point in time copy of your EBS volume. So you have your volume. With that, one snapshot will be created. Understand? That snapshot, right, is the basic building block of the AMI. So that snapshot, what will it contain? Your root volume or maybe additional volumes, right? That volume will contain all your operating system, your software, whatever. Now, with all those components, this AMI will become a particular template which will be useful for you. You can launch it when and whenever you need, right? You can have a choice of operating system, right? Windows or Linux, right? So this will be what? From this, you can launch your EC2 instance. Say like you have AMI number 1, you have created one EC2 instance out of that particular AMI, right? Now that AMI will have one root volume, right? Now, from that particular instance, again you can create one AMI, right? So what you can do? You can just put something in that particular instance. You can install some software, you can make some changes, you can do whatever you want, and then from that you can create another AMI. From that AMI you can launch additional instances. That instance will contain a separate root volume, right? So each instance in AWS EC2, right, will have its own separate what? EBS volume, correct? So one EBS volume at a time can be attached to one EC2 instance, right? If you want.
So, sorry to interrupt, but what is the difference between a snapshot and AMI then?
So that's what I told you. See, you go back and just look at it. Just look at this thing. What I told, this is template. This contains information. This contains that boot volume as well. So apart from the boot volume, you have additional information, right, associated with that. And you just take a look at the picture, what it shows. You have the volume, you have the snapshot, and apart from that, you have additional information, right, to launch your instance. Got it? So that additional thing, that additional configuration, that's it. But snapshot is a building block. It's a part of AMI. So you understand, it's more than a snapshot. Got it?
But when we take a snapshot of an EC2,
yes,
in that case it is as good as an AMI, right? Because it is taking everything.
Understand that the root volume, right, whatever volume you are making a snapshot, you can make snapshot out of any volume, right? Say like you have 1G volume, you have taken a snapshot, is that AMI?
No, the volume is not an AMI, but the EC2 snapshot.
No, just listen. You have created a snapshot out of 1G volume, Shweta, yesterday, right or wrong?
Correct.
Is that AMI? Can that be used to launch an instance? Yes or no?
It will need additional information. No, it will not.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. That snapshot that you created out of 1G volume, 1 GB volume, right? Can you launch an instance out of that volume? Does that contain operating system?
No. That is not an AMI. I agree. But
so you understood the difference between snapshot and AMI or not?
Ha.
So understand that Snapshot can be, right, for any volume. It's not necessary that snapshot will contain the boot volume, right? First difference. Now you have to understand AMI means, right? This is something which is a full-fledged template from which, right, you can create a machine. You can create an instance, but from all the snapshots, you cannot create one instance. However, if you have a snapshot or a root volume, right, using that, right, what you can do? You can
restore.
You can restore what? To another volume, EBS volume, correct? That EBS volume, when you attach to an instance, will that function as your instance used to function earlier or not? Say like you have two EC2 instances, right? Now, one EC2 instance, whatever you are having, that EC2 instance, whatever root volume is there, you detach it. Now, you have another EC2 instance, right? For which you have another boot volume. Now, that boot volume you detach and attach to the very first instance. That first instance will boot or not? Got my point?
Can you come again, sir, please? Sorry.
Okay, 1 minute. You have an EC2 instance. With this, you have one EBS volume attached. Okay?
Okay.
Now, this is EC2 instance number 1. And you have the EBS 1. Now, you have another EC2 running. Yesterday we discussed about it, right? So there is another EC2 instance that is having another EBS volume, right? Connected to it, right? We saw how to attach and how to detach a particular EBS volume from EC2 instance, right? You all know?
Yes, right.
Okay, now this is a boot volume. This is a boot volume or root volume that you call. Now what I do, I detach it. Okay, I detached it. I detach this as well. Now what I am doing, I am attaching this with this particular EC2 instance. Now this EC2 number 1 got attached to EBS volume 2. Now I am asking, will this EC2 machine boot or not?
It should not.
Why it should not?
That's not a root volume.
This is a root volume for this, no?
For EC2, okay.
See, for
EC2.
EC2 instance number 2, this was the boot volume. For EC2 number 1, this was the boot volume. Now you detached it, right? You detached it from this instance. Now you connected here. Now I'm asking, will that EC2 instance number 1 boot or not?
Yes, that will boot.
It will boot with this particular volume?
Yes.
Now, that's what I'm saying. Now, what you have done, you have taken a snapshot. Snapshot of what? This particular volume.
Yeah.
Now, you have deleted this. Correct?
Okay.
Now, from this snapshot, you can create the same EBS volume, whatever you were having, right? And you can connect to this particular EC2 instance. That is the benefit of snapshot. So how using snapshot you can get your EC2 instance back, that's the process I'm telling. If you have the snapshot for the boot or root volume that you call. Got it? That snapshot should have operating system. Every snapshot cannot be used to launch one instance. Got it? You have additional volume, say like EBS volume 3. That is 1 GB in size, that is having some abc.txt file or some file is there in that. Now you have taken a snapshot from that, right? that snapshot number 2, if you attach this snapshot number 2 to this instance, with that instance, will that instance boot? You don't connect this one. You connect only that 1 GB where you have a file. Will that instance boot?
No, it will not boot until
It
unless
will
we will
not
not
boot.
create the volume.
You
Yeah.
don't have the operating system.
Yes, we
So,
have to create the volume first.
no, volume you will create. See, from this snapshot, you create a volume. EBS volume you create. EBS volume number 3. Now, with that volume, you connect to this EC2 instance. You don't have a root volume. You are connecting this particular EBS3, right? That 1 GB volume, which is having a file abc.txt or raul.txt. That file is there, and hundreds of other graphics are there. Some photos are there. Some video is there in this particular volume. Now, if you connect this particular snapshot, you create volume out of it, you attach that volume to this EC2 instance. That's the only volume attached to this particular EC2 instance. Will that EC2 instance boot?
No, no, no. Absolutely not.
So for any system to boot, you require operating system, right?
Yes, OS files.
So OS, for operating system, you require a boot volume, a hard disk, a C drive, right? That is there in your system, that is having operating system. If you take out that hard disk, if I give you some another hard disk which is not having any operating system, will that your system will boot?
No.
So that is the difference between snapshot and AMI. So just understand, using a snapshot, if you want, you can boot one instance as well, but what you have to do, that snapshot should be your boot volume snapshot, and you have to attach it, right? Make a volume out of it and attach it. You can boot it, but do not get confused with AMI and snapshot, because AMI is something which will be taken for a particular instance, right? And that instance can what? It can be created, right, from the AMI, right? So this is how it works. So from AMI, you can.
Hello, Harish, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Shweta.
So, okay, tell me something. If I have taken a snapshot of the AMI, of the EC2, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There was an option, right? Two options were there, where you can take volume, you can take a EC2.
Mm-hmm.
So I have taken a snapshot of EC2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now when I recover from that snapshot, it will again recreate the EC2.
No, Shweta, you're not getting after so much of explanation, because you are thinking in some other direction. Snapshot, I told you, is a backup of your EBS volume, right? From the backup, you can restore the volume. It doesn't have the configuration about your what? How you are not sure, you have not seen AMI earlier. Have you seen AMI before this?
No.
You have 2 times you have done it. One time you chose
I
AMI.
have done it. Yeah. We took it from the marketplace and created all those AMIs.
One time you took Windows AMI, another time you took Red Hat AMI, right?
Yeah.
That AMI has something additional, the configuration details for building your instance. Okay? Got it? Now, those configuration details are not there in the snapshot. Snapshot will have a backup, a point in time copy of the data that is there in your EBS volume. Now, snapshot is just a copy. Yeah.
Sir, I am understanding what AMI is. It's very clear. You've explained it very well.
Okay.
My only thing is what I'm now getting confused is when we take a snapshot of EC2, it takes the snapshot of the EBS volumes that are attached to that EC2.
Only EBS volume, Shweta. Only EBS volume.
Okay, got it.
I
Sir.
showed
Now
you
it is clear.
yesterday. I showed you, right? You please go through previous day's recording. In that, I showed you, right? You had asked this question, and I had explained you when we selected instance, right? While taking the snapshot, it gave me option for all the volumes, right? Where I had the choice, I could skip root volume, or I can take the snapshot of all the volumes. Whether you choose instance or you choose a volume, it's a one and the same. See, when you are taking a snapshot of instance, so the only thing is you don't have to select all the volumes one by one. Instead of taking that instance, right, you can select each and every volume one by one and you can take a snapshot, right? It's just the same, nothing difference. The only thing is it's giving you a quicker option to take snapshot of all the volumes associated with your instance. That's it. So snapshot remains snapshot. If you choose instance option, that doesn't mean that snapshot will become something else.
Right, right, right. And that is also is a reason I see normally, that as a backup policy, people ask us only to take snapshots and not take AMIs of all the, systems.
See, that's what I'm saying. Snapshot is to take a backup of the volume.
Got
Now,
it, got it.
AMI is, the purpose of AMI is different. The purpose of AMI is to rebuild the system, entire system, right? Now, you can also rebuild the entire system if you have the root volume snapshot, as I had shown you just some time ago explained. You can also build your EC2 instance using, if you have all the volumes, right? And if you remember the configuration details of your system, you can build it. Got my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have the hard disk, you have all the data, you can build the system as well. So this AMI is all about, right? What? Doing what? For launching the instance. So you have to remember that snapshot doesn't mean that it's for launching the instance. AMI means it is for launching the instance. That's the major difference. So obviously this will have a snapshot. Minimum snapshot that it should have is what? Root volume snapshot. Got it? The minimum snapshot that should be associated with one particular AMI is the root volume snapshot. That snapshot will be associated with that. Okay. Now, from AMI, you can create instance. From instance, you can create AMI. So it goes like that, right? Let's create an AMI. So hope that will clarify all the doubts that you may be having, right? So let's go to EC2 dashboard. All of you there?
Yeah, just logging. Yeah.
Okay. So you may be having an instance in a stopped state, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, right, we are going to take what?
Start.
Instance, that whatever instance that we are having, we are going to create an image out of it, right? So we will create the image, right? And that image is going to contain what? My boot volume, right? So that boot volume will have what? The operating system, right? The Apache, right? Whatever we had installed yesterday, right? So we'll have that root volume, right? And then we'll make a snapshot. We'll make a AMI. So that will contain a snapshot. So that also I'll show you. See here, snapshots, if you see under this snapshot, I have only 1 GB snapshot. Please check your snapshot tab. You go to snapshot and see how many snapshots you are having.
I have one. Yeah.
1
1
Harris.
GB only, right?
1 GB, yeah.
Okay, so you have 1 GB snapshot, right? And all of you should have only one. That should be 1 GB, right? Now, you go to AMI, click on AMI, and you see nothing is there. You do not have any images, right? Now, just you go to your instance, you see that you have one instance in a stopped state. All of you please confirm.
Yes, Harris.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, just see here. You just click on this, right? It got selected, right?
Yeah.
Now, after this is selected, you go to action menu. In the action
Start.
menu, no. Don't start. Just see here.
Okay.
See, you have option for image.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is image. You click on that image. What does it say?
Create image.
Create image.
So that AMI means what? Amazon machine image. Image of the machine, right? So now if you just click on create image, right, it gives me certain options, right? So you see all those options are coming. Now all of you please do that. Go to instance, select
Done,
that,
guys.
go to action, go to image, and click on create image. All of you please. You'll be here on this page. Please confirm.
Yes, I'm in.
Yes, I'm there.
Everyone? Okay. Now, here in the image name, right? Please mention some name. Okay. Say like, I'll say Linux image. I'll just say like that, Linux image. Now, this is description. So I'll just say Linux with Apache. So this is containing my Apache software, right? That HTTPD daemon as well, right? So I'm just saying Linux with Apache. Okay.
Okay.
You just see here, it says instance volumes, volume type, device, snapshot, size, volume type, IOPS, delete and termination, all those options are there. Now, you just see volume type, EBS, Dev SDA. Can you make any changes in this one? In these three things, volume type, device, and snapshot. Can you make any changes?
No, it's not allowing.
You went to the instance and from there you're trying to create this AMI, right? Create image action.
Where were you, Shweta? 2 times I repeated that.
Go select that instance first, Linux Conserta, and then go to actions.
Image, no? There is image option.
Yes,
there,
yes,
create image.
correct.
There
Once you
only,
click-
right?
Yeah, there inside that you
Shweta,
will get create image.
Yeah, you
option.
just select here. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, got it. I'm there now. I was going into AMI and trying to. Okay.
That means you're not following instruction. You're not at all following instruction.
No. I actually was. I had to go.
Exploring
and
things, right?
back.
So you can explore after the session as well, right, Shweta? Correct, no?
No, sir. I had to leave and go and then came back. So I thought which page you guys are.
Okay. So you can explore, right? That's what I requested in the beginning of the session, that please focus on what I'm explaining. That will help you out. Please take my words, right? If you can understand what I'm explaining, right? If you can relate to it, you can learn a lot, right? You can explore things. Nobody will stop you. But during the session with the limited time, right? If you can focus on what I'm explaining, right? So you will have the clarity. I'm just assuring you of that. And if you don't get it, I'm there for that as well, right? So just click on create image, just give some name. I just gave some name like, say like Linux Apache, right? Some Linux Apache or Linux image, something I have given. Now,
Linux image, yeah.
yeah, here I'm just saying like Linux with
Apache.
Apache, right? So I'm just creating one image where I have given some name, and then what I was explaining, right? Here you see EBS Dev SDA1 create a new snapshot or not. So you don't have a choice here, right? So here you see volume type, this IOPS. Now you cannot modify this, you cannot remove this, or you don't have this cross button also in the very first one. What does it mean? That AMI, it's mandatory to have one boot volume that I was explaining about, right? You must have at least, right, one volume, and that should be root volume or the boot volume that will contain the operating system that you are having, in your instance, whatever operating system. Say like from Linux machine you are creating this AMI, that doesn't mean that you will get Windows for that. So you are creating from Linux machine, so that will have Linux only. Whatever you are having, that only will come. Now, what you can do here is you can change the size if you wish, right? So you have 10 GB of your instance, you can make it 11 or 12 if you want. Then the person whosoever is going to create instance out of it, right? The final size there in the launched machine should be 12 GB or something, so that you can modify. This by default, whatever option delete on termination is there. So what you want to see, what you want to set as by default, right? This can anyway be changed while launching the instance. It can be changed, but if you want to enable this option, see like you want it by default to be tick marked, then in that case, right, what will happen? You have to choose this option, right? Now you have additional volume as well. So you want, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
Actually, this first one is visible for me, that enable one, first one by default. But second one, this 1 GB size is not visible to me.
So you are not having that 1 GB attached to your instance. That only means that volume is not attached to your instance.
So that should also seen in green. If it is blue, then it is not attached. You can attach that.
Correct. So your volume is not attached to your instance. So leave it, don't get deviated, right? Understand AMI. This is not mandatory thing. This volume anybody can create, this 1 GB volume, and anybody can use it, right? So if you want this to be part of your AMI, you can just keep this as well. Otherwise, we are also removing it. So just remove it.
Okay, no problem. Fine.
So not an issue. Why it is not visible means that is not attached to your instance. You might have detached it. You might have gone to the volume, right, and detached from the instance. So it's okay, not an issue. Just remove, all of you can remove. So just to be in sync with what Rahul is doing. You can add additional volume here, Rahul.
Yes, this option is there. That's why I asked you that. I thought that you have done adding from here itself. So that's why I asked you.
No, so that came by default because I was having that attached. However, if you want more things here from instance store, you can just choose from there as well. Or you want EBS, you can choose that as well. So you have option for that also. So just don't get deviated. Just understand AMI. Remove everything. Just keep one for the boot volume. Right? During the image creation process, EC2 creates a snapshot of each of the above volume. Just look at this. So when they are creating image, what they are doing? They're taking a snapshot only. First they will take a snapshot. So that snapshot plus additional information will be there. Now, see like this option, delete on termination options. Now click on create image, right? And what it is doing, you go to AMI, right? You see something going on. Go to snapshot, you see something else going on there. First step is done. The second step, this is also done. So that was quick. Snapshot. You just see here what it says, created by create image. Who created that snapshot?
AMI.
Whatever process that we followed for creation of the AMI, first thing was this creation of the snapshot, because this is mandatory for AMI. So this snapshot is ready, and there is no difference between taking a particular snapshot, right? How you take manually and how this has been taken, it's one and the same. So now you just understand this is a snapshot, and then apart from this snapshot, you got, right, this AMI with a name, with an ID, right, and with other features, right? Now the root device, virtualization type, right? So all those features got associated with your AMI, right? So I'll just give a name here, just for my referencing purpose. So I have just given this name, right? So this became an image, that AMI. Now just click on this image, see the details here. So what it says, this is the source, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So all these things, HBM is the virtualization type here, description is there, image type is machine, architecture, creation date, all those options, block device, whatever is attached, so that is there. Now here, this particular AMI, if you select, you go to action menu and you click on launch. Just click on launch, select that AMI, click on launch. What do you see? Have you seen this screen earlier any time?
Yeah, during the starting of that instance creation.
Yes, yeah.
Same page, right?
Yes, exactly
Right.
the same page.
Correct. So
It's awesome.
what happens here? It's the same process, right? The same thing. You had one AMI. What is the difference? This particular AMI also contains Apache software. Got it?
Okay.
Got it? So if you just say next, right, you have the options to configure the same way what we were having earlier, right? So I just say like, okay, I want to launch this now, this time in say like 1C, okay, or I just want to launch it in 1A. I think I have in 1B, so
Yes.
I will just make it available in 1A. It says use subnet setting, whatever, so I just keep like that, right? You see again here, this interface auto assign, you have file
Everything is
system
same.
option, you have option here, add file system, just click, you have that EFS thing also you can add, right? You have a choice, correct? You can just remove it, right? So you are getting the features, right? Everything is same, the basic template, the virtualization type, the operating system, all those things are there. Everything is same, just you go to storage. Here also you can add additional volume, right? You can add new volume here as well. So what you're getting here, the same whatever things you were getting, and then you can make changes, right? So this is one way of scaling your EC2. Can you relate what I told? I told this is one way of scaling your EC2, vertical scaling. What you understood?
We can increase or decrease the size.
Yes. Now I want to go for something else. Say like here in the previous section, while I was doing the T2 micro, right? That time, if I choose, right? Say like something else, something big, right? Say like M4, say like I go for some C5 large, or say like C5 18X large. I go for this. Possible, right? What I am doing, I have the same instance, whatever operating system, whatever software, whatever we have installed, the same thing, but with larger size, right? Can you see here? I have selected compute optimized C5 18X large. My T2 micro will become C5 18X large. That will be the what? New size, the new instance type, everything will be changed with how many vCPUs? See, this field is vCPU and this is memory. So
72 and 144 CPUs there.
now I have 72 vCPUs.
Yeah.
Is it not vertical scaling for EC2?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct? No. So with the same AMI, with the same configuration, right? If I want to vertically scale my EC2 instance, this is one way of doing it. This is one way of doing it. You just, from the AMI, you just keep on AMI, from that AMI, you while launching the template, you choose the option, whatever bigger size that you are looking for. But I'm just saying T2 micro for my, no?
So Hari is here. Whatever will be available in the existing instance, it will be automatically created in that new instance, or by
Correct.
default.
Correct.
Got
New
it.
instance will
Mhm.
have
Take all the
bigger
things.
size. Whatever
Yeah,
we
take all
choose.
the things. Yeah. Take all the things, whatever is available in the existing instance, like software, whatever we have installed, whatever we have done.
Exactly.
Okay, now the picture is very much clear to me.
Getting
And
clear,
also,
right?
Yes,
and
yes,
also
right.
in a different zone, right? Whatever we have
You
zoned
can create
earlier.
in a different
Different
availability
zone as well.
zone.
Yeah.
You
Right,
can create in a different region also, you know. You can
Yes,
copy
yes.
that AMI to different region. You can copy there also. And I can give my AMI to you. That is also possible. I can sell my AMI as well, right? So lot of things associated with that. You can change the permission, right? And you can make it available for another account of yours. Everything is there. Now, just take a look. I'll just show you, right? So you just go to this, you just here, whatever options by default is there. So I'm just saying next add storage. I'm just keeping like this. I can make modifications here. I can change the type of EBS volume as well. If I'm looking for something better apart from that GP2, that is one SSD volume that we have been using so far, that is the standard one, right? We'll be taking a look at other options in a short while. So say like this provision diops, right? This is IO1 and IO2, two options are there. So I'll be explaining you. So they say like IO2, if I choose, you see the IOPS 5000, right? Here you see IO1 500. So this is the previous generation provisioned IOPS, that SSD. This is the latest generation. This came on 25th of August last month, last to last month. So this is the latest one. Now, if you want to have higher IOPS, right, better performance, so you can enhance that type also, volume type also, CPU, memory, whatever. You can change it here. You see, I had tick marked, so I got this tick mark by default. If I would have removed that tick mark while creation of AMI, then this would have been removed here by default. So I have choice. Still, I can make changes here. I can tick it or I can remove that. So whatever, delete automation. Now I can add some tags, right? And then this is like just add a tag for this EC2. I'll say Linux Apache.
It's already there.
Yeah, I got a choice for that. So now configure security group. Now you can just keep the same ones, or you can take the new one. So I have that Linux SE, right? So let me choose that one only, so that all these rules will be applied there, right, by default. So I have chosen that, and then I'm saying review and launch, right? This is saying Linux Apache AMI, Linux with Apache, root device type EBS, virtualization type HVM, right? So instance type T2 micro, right? EBS, low to moderate, all those options with all my security groups, all my instance, whatever data, storage, tags. So everything, it is ready. I just say launch, then it asks for this step. So Karthik, you had missed this one. Karthik is not there. Okay. So Karthik had missed this particular thing. He didn't download it.
That's why the error was coming yesterday.
Yeah. So either you can create a new pair or you can launch, proceed without a key pair. I think he proceeded with this. And then he acknowledged and then he launched. Probably, not sure. So here choose and create a new key pair we had done. We can choose an existing key pair as well, right? So just see here, key pair consists of public key that AWS stores. That's what I was explaining to you, Rahul, yesterday. Key pair consists of a public key that AWS stores. So I had shown you under .ssh directory, under authorized underscore keys file, right? We had the public key, right, mentioned, right? And the private key we had as .pem, from which we created .ppk, right? And then try to connect to our instance securely, right? For Windows, we had the private key. From there, we obtained the password to log into the instance. For Linux AMIs, the private key file allows you to securely SSH into your instance. What we have been doing so far, right? So choose existing one, and it says whatever key pairs are there, so it's giving me a choice. So I used key 2. I'll use the same one today as well. So I'll just say acknowledge, and I'll say launch instance. So it's launching, right? So you can view launch logs, or you can simply go there, right? You have the filter, so just you can remove the filters. It will show you another instance that is getting created. So just take a look, right? So you are getting another instance created, that is Linux Apache. So this Linux Apache is going to get another IP address and all those other details, right? So it has come from Linux Apache. The very first one, right? That had come from what? That had come from this particular AMI ID. The AMI name was this one, right? So initially when we launched our RHEL instance, this was the AMI. This time it is not from the marketplace. It is our own AMI with all the configurations, right? Got it? Understood AMI?
And Harish, after this, this original AMI, will that be there or that will be deleted?
No, it will be there. You install, you download, you use it 100 times, 1000 times.
Okay.
That is there. See, it will be there in AMI section now. You see?
It's still there, okay.
Yeah.
And these AMIs are incremental backup, or this is just a one-time copy?
Only one copy, right? Whatever was the time, at whatever time you had taken, no?
Unlike snapshot, these are only one time.
Yeah. So you created it and you made a golden copy out of it. So you call it a golden copy when it is the perfect one. So you have used it once and you have used it twice. You have seen that, okay, it is working fine. Everything is perfect. So that copy is now master copy. Now you kept it. Anybody can use it. You can make it available to other people as well, right? So this is AMI. You see the permissions. You see here, image is currently private, correct? You have AWS account number. You just click on edit. You can put another. I can put your account number. I can add permission, right? Add create volume permission. I can give you. You can add another volume as well. So all those options you are having, I can make it public, and I can save it. I can make it accessible for you. So all those options, all those features are there with the AMI, right? So with this, right? You all are creating it, or you just?
We are just. I'm just just going after because whatever you are showing to us, I'm just watching it.
Okay, so not an issue. So you have understood, right? How we have created it, right? So this AMI you are having, if you just click on launch, it will start launching the instance. Got it? So
should you create now?
I just want to ask one thing here. You can go to the permission tab just after details. Okay, so AWS account number, it means that I can share to any other account as well, right? This image.
Yes. Give me your account number.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just put it here. I'll just say add permission.
So exactly the same image what you have created now. It
exactly
will be
same,
right?
And if you use that image, you will get exactly the same EC2 instance also.
Right. All right. Means I don't need to create now. We can do that also because we have created.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yes, that's really good. That is
it's
very
better.
practical.
You can say, yeah. Got it.
The entire AWS EC2 instances are working like this only. See, without AMI, you cannot launch an instance in AC2 or AWS. That is the only way to launch your instance. That AMI is the only way that you are having. You cannot go and put a DVD and start installation of something. So you have to begin with AMI only. That is the fixed thing. So this AMI is very important here with AWS concept. So
Yes.
in AWS, you have to begin from there only. As soon as you think of launching an instance, you think of an AMI, which AMI I want. That's the very first step for launching an instance. Got it? First step, launch instance. If you click, you cannot proceed without thinking of a particular AMI. Just understand. So an AMI is a template that contains the software configuration, operating system, application, server applications required to launch an instance. So this is the definition. If you are looking for a definition, click on launch, you will get the definition there. Right?
It has written on top of the choose
Yeah,
an
yeah,
Amazon
yeah.
machine image. So it is
Correct.
asking about image only on the
Correct.
very first line.
Correct. So this is what I'm explaining today about the AMI, right? You please go ahead and explore, right? Community AMI, marketplace, my AMIs. You will have, say like click on my AMIs, you will see that my AMIs here. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Owned by
Now-
me, or when I share with you, right? That time if you click, no, this shared with me. Got it? See, as of now, shared with me
Okay.
is nothing. You give
Okay,
me,
okay.
when you give me your account number, maybe after the session, if you wish, I can explain you. I can do it for you. You can share me your account number. I can give you permission, and then you click on shared with me. No, you will see my AMI there, and from there you can now launch it.
So
Right?
who will be the owner in that case, Harish? Because you
I
will
am
be
the
the owner
owner.
only, na?
I
And
will
you
be
have
the
shared to multiple accounts.
Yes.
If you will be the owner and you can share with multiples. I
Correct,
think
exactly.
the way I have not worked in this production department right now in EMI, these
Yes.
things Amazon, but I think they are working like that only. They create one instance and distribute it with someone else.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's
So
really
now,
clear.
correct. Okay. Perfect. So now that you all should be in EC2, right? So we have one important topic that is called elastic IP address. So far we all have been using, and you have been asking me right from the very beginning, what do I do? What do I do? My IP is getting changed. My instance, I'm just shutting it down, and then IP is getting changed, right? What do I do? So this is the solution for that, right? Elastic IP address, right? So this is a public IP address, right? This static IP address. This is not changing. Now, this is allocated to your AWS account, right? So what will happen? You just create one elastic IP. Now it will be associated with your account. Whether you use it or not doesn't matter, but it will get associated with your account.
Means
Right?
it will not change once we are shutting down the instance and running it again. The IP has got changed in public IP.
This will not change.
By using this elastic IP address, it won't change. It will remain the same for us, right?
Yes, it will be fixed for you, right?
Okay.
Now, the only thing is, what will happen if you
Okay.
shut down your instance? No,
Okay.
you will be charged for it.
Is it?
If you shut down your instance, you will be charged for this elastic IP address on hourly basis. But if you are running your instance, if you are not shutting down your instance, you will not charge for it. You will not be charged. Got it?
Okay, means one day,
Got it?
2
It's
days,
the
3 days.
reverse.
If you got it. If you run for the maximum days, it won't charge. If you shut down, then it will charge.
You got it. So if you do not use, right, this elastic IP, you will be charged. If you are using it, you are not getting charged. Any logic behind it?
Anyways, they are charging us for the consumption of the services, right? So that IP cost is already covered under the system cost, maybe. And if we
But
do
when,
not charge,
yeah, correct, making sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sense. So for EC2 if you're running, so they will be charging you for EC2, right? So if you shut it down, right, and then if you keep it associated, right, with your account, you are wasting one static IP, right? And you know IP address, right? It's a scarce resource, right? So it's not like unlimited, right? So this public static IP address, right? They don't want you to waste simply. You will just get one, right, free for your account. If you want additional ones, you have to pay for it, right? If you just get it and then if you don't use it, that means you are just wasting a resource, right? So for that reason, they say that they are charging you, right? But as you said initially, that is the main reason, because anyways they are charging you for EC2 instance. So if you are running it, you are getting charged for it, right? So for EIP, they are giving you free, only one they are giving you free. Okay, now let's go and create one and see how it works.
When you create an AMI out of one of the EC2s, okay,
You are still in
and
AMI.
there is a question because of
You
this
can park it, Shweta.
EIP का नहीं, okay, ठीक है, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So bit late, but anyways, we can take that up after the session.
Actually, the question was related to this IP address.
Okay, then you ask.
Yeah. So if there is, you know, the static IP is there and there is a disaster that happens and we have kept an AMI saved out of it, okay, and we try to recover that, will it get the same IP? I mean, how is it saved in the AMI as to what IP it was assigned to?
See, while creation of AMI, what all options you got, Shweta?
I don't remember everything, but
Did
it
you get
was
IP address?
IP address.
See, for that, you have another option. You have one more option for template that I will be showing you. For disaster recovery purpose, while we do auto scaling, automatic creation of your EC2 instance where there is no manual intervention, right? So I'll be showing you, we'll create a template, right? And then I'll show you how it can get created, right? What are the features? Okay. Okay. So for now, what we do, just go there and create one EIP. Go to the console. Just tell me where we should have that option, Elastic IP. Who can tell?
Elastic IP right hand side. See on the screen running instance. Elastic
Do you
IP
see?
is there.
Do you see Elastic IP? Is it a feature of no EC2 instance? Do you have EC2? Do you have Elastic IP?
Networking. Must be under networking. If you could scroll
I'll check
down.
once. I'll check once.
But still, you can find where.
Right,
You have
on
two
desktop only it's
choices.
showing.
You have two choices, Rahul. How you had the security group?
Yes, yes. I'll check. Just check.
Check.
Inside the network and security.
Inside network and security, Elastic
here in
IP
the
is
top.
there. Yes. I got it. Inside that network and security, Elastic IPs is there option.
Here.
Yes, below Elastic IP.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So here
One
you have
more
choice. If it is there under network and security, that means you can access through VPC also. Last time Shweta accessed through VPC
Yes.
security group. So now, if you go to VPC, from there also you can access it. You just see. You just go to VPC, right? Under VPC also you have network option.
Yeah.
Under that VPC management console, here also you should have that. You see Elastic IP option.
Elastic IP, yes, virtual private cloud.
Right? So you have Elastic IP option here, allocate Elastic IP address, or you have Elastic IP address here, right? From here also you reach to the same place, right? Nothing difference, same, right? Now, if you are in EC2 dashboard, right? You just click on this Elastic IP, you reach the same place. Got it?
That's why I was telling you from the beginning.
You were telling this one?
Yes, so yes, I told now that just after running instances,
Okay.
IP option is there.
Okay, good. So this is how you have to look for things, right? So look for things, just try to relate. It might be related to this, it might be related to that, where it should be. Just look for it. So you just have multiple options to go to the same place. Now, just click on allocate. So as of now, nothing is allocated to us. So I told you about allocating elastic IP address.
Yeah.
Now you clicked on elastic IP address allocation, right? So it will be allocating you from, you see here all those information, whatever I'm telling to you is mentioned here, right? So it says allocate elastic IP by selecting the public IPv4 address pool. It will be allocated to you. You can have one elastic IP address associated with the running instance at no charge. Additional ones you have to pay. If you associate additional EIPs with that instance, you will be charged for each additional EIP associated with that instance on a pro rata basis. Additional EIPs are only available in Amazon VPC. To ensure efficient use of this, we impose small hourly charges, right? So you'll be charged for that, right? So be careful. If you use elastic IP, do not shut down your machine. If you shut down, right? So you just remove it first, and then only you just keep it shut down. Now you just click on allocate. You got one allocated to you, right? This is fixed now for me, right? This 15.207.169.84. I go to my EC2 dashboard. I go to my running instance, right? And I see that my Linux, Red Hat Linux machine, whatever I'm having that. What is my IP here? Nothing allocated. Why? Because the machine is stopped. My machine is stopped, so no public IP. So understand, when we start this machine, we will get one public IP from the public IP pool. This Linux Apache 1, this has come as running. This is having one particular public IP address, but again, this is not the static one. Now, where is my EIP? If I go and look at my EIP, right? So I see my EIP here, right? What we can do with this? Shall we associate this with something?
With running instance.
With our running instance?
Yes.
How? What is the basic thing to do?
Actions.
Yeah, so we have to be in action for that. Go in action. And what do you want to do?
Associate elastic IP address. Yes.
Yeah, so you can associate, you can dissociate, you can release, you can do all this. So associate elastic IP address, right? You can associate with instance or a network interface, right? There is concept of network interface. What is network interface? Sorry. What is network interface?
Source from where you are getting network access.
NIC card.
Yes. So what Shweta is saying, the same thing. So it is NIC card, that is network card. How you have physical Ethernet card, right? So that network card here we call it what?
Network interface. NIC. Yeah.
Network interface, or we call it elastic network interface actually. ENI. What we call? ENI. So what is elastic network interface? Just a what? Network interface card, right? Which is virtual. That is virtual. It's not a physical one. Everything becomes virtual when we think about a virtual machine, right? So whatever physical interface, that is here, that ENI, elastic network interface. So you can associate it with ENI, elastic network interface, or with an instance, means whatever is the by default network interface there, it will get associated with that, right? Now this ENI, you can move from here to there, you can detach to another instance, you can take that network interface, you can attach to some other thing also. So that's why you have a choice. You can associate this with network interface, this EIP, or you can associate with this particular instance, right? So you have a choice. If you just see here, it gives you a choice of running and stopped instances. Say like I am choosing this running one, right? Now it's asking for private IP address with which to associate the elastic IP address. So there is a concept of IP address, the private IP address and the public IP address, right? So you have a private IP address and you have a public IP address. So you have seen, right, private and public IP addresses, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So whatever is your private IP address, corresponding to that, you will have one public IP address, right? So
Yes.
EC2, you have seen, right? You have one private one and one public one. So if you just take a look at running instances, right? So here, this Linux Apache is running as of now. So let me take that Linux Apache, sorry. So here you have one private 172.31.43.44 and there public 13.127.240. So this is associated. This is the private one, that is the public one, right? So like that, it's asking like the private IP address with which to associate the elastic one. So it says, gives me a choice here in the drop down 172.31.43.44, right? 172.31.43.44. Just look at this private IP address. Just look at this one. Same, right?
Yeah.
Now, your static IP address, whatever is there, that will get associated with this private IP address of your system, right? And here it says allow this elastic IP address to be reassociated, right? So this is not relevant here. Specify whether the elastic IP address can be reassociated with a different resource. If it is already associated with the resource, it's not associated. So it's not a choice here. So I just click on associate, right? And then you see what is going to happen. So this now it is shown as, right, this public IP address is associated with this particular instance ID. See here, and this is the private IP address. This is the association ID. So this got associated with a particular instance that we have chosen, our Linux Apache instance, right? So all those details are there. If you just go to the instance, right, here it was like 13.127.241.18, right? I just refresh, right, and I choose Linux Apache. You see the IP address changed.
Yes.
Now this became 15.207.169.84. That 15.207.169.84. That is my elastic IP address, right? So that is my EIP. That EIP we have associated with this running instance. Will we be charged for it? No.
For running
Until,
instance, they won't charge.
yes.
You will not shut down your stop.
Yeah, if I don't shut down, if I plan to keep it running for a few days, I will keep it like that only. So in production, right, it's not the thing where you will be shutting down. But however, so usually we use the DNS name in production environment. So the IP addressing is something which will not be used directly in each and every case. There are cases where IP address is very important, only IP address is mandatory. Now, usually what we do when we look at the DNS, right? So you will understand that the benefit of DNS, right? You will understand the benefit of load balancing, right? So it's not necessary that you will have only one particular IP address associated and you will be depending on that particular IP address only. Right, so you will have your DNS name and there can be a number of IP addresses associated, right? Let that IP address come or go, doesn't matter to me. My DNS name, say like google.com you are accessing. Do you think only one IP address is there for google.com? No, right? Google.com will be running whether one IP is down or up or one system is up or down, doesn't matter. So like that only things work in production environment, right? So have your any questions?
Yeah, I have. Actually, this elastic IP is not suitable for us because we are currently running our instance as 750 hours. So we can't continue because if we continue running our instance, then it will be reduce our hours, right? So it will be more effective. We can use in productions things where it's not required to shut down or stop the instance.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll come across situations, right, where we will
Yes.
have
Because
this.
if we keep our
Yes.
instance running, then we
Agree.
lose our that's what we
Correct,
lost our
correct.
this timing and hours.
Yes, yes. So
It's better to
true, that's true. Now if you want to dissociate, say like whatever it's running instance it is associated with, how do you dissociate this?
take
Just
that
go to
instance mi sorry
Elastic
IP,
IP.
yeah, yes, elastic IP.
Okay.
Select that, go to action, go to actions, and deselect, deassociate elastic IP address.
Dissociate. So dissociate will, what it will do? It will
Will remove
dissociate
that.
from your account,
Yes.
or it will dissociate from the EC2.
It will
From
dissociate
EC2,
from
from
EC2 instance.
Only from
That
EC2.
instance.
Will it be lying
Yes.
in your account?
No.
Yes, we need to release it. It will be lying in our account.
Yes. It will be lying in your account only. It will get dissociated, but it will get disassociated from the instance only, not from your account. For that, you have to release.
So what does mean
Wait,
that
Release
will
is
be
reverse
charged.
of allocate.
So if it is disassociated, it is not, but it is still in our account, we will be charged for it, right?
You will be charged. Yeah.
Uh,
In any case, if it is disassociated, right, you will be charged. If it
okay,
is
so it's
not
better
in
to
use,
release.
you will be charged.
So,
Okay.
so
Better to
what
release.
is the reason we should go for, I mean, suppose we
We
have
will
to
be
access.
coming across netting, so I'll be explaining you.
Okay, I mean, my question was like if we can access something through the host name DNS, independent of what it and I mean the IP will not matter, right? In that case.
It will matter, right? There are various use cases, right, which will not happen without elastic IP, without a static IP. There are use cases for that, right?
Okay, okay.
Right. So that's why it is there. See, anything will not be there without any particular purpose, right? So there are situations, right, where you will be required to use fixed IP address. You cannot go ahead and keep changing it every time, right? So we have the use cases. I'll be explaining you. Don't worry about that. So
Harish, one question here. As you said that disassociate and release. So I want to know that if I will deassociate, means that IP will still be available in our account for future use as well.
yes,
And suppose if I want to use this in future, the same IP will be available for us, right?
yes, yes.
If I release that one, it means that IP is not associated with my account, and it can be usable by any other account as well, right?
You got it. You got it.
Okay, thank you so much, Harish.
No problem.
That's the question.
Yeah. So now, as and when we come across the use, I'll explain. So now you just disassociate this, and you will see that it is still visible, right, under the EIP section, right? Now, after we disassociated, whatever was the elastic IP associated, this 15.203, where it was my running instance, right, whatever was there, that 15 thing, if I just refresh, what will happen to that?
Will change, I guess.
Now it became something else again one more time, right? So that had changed. Now, if I refresh this page, right, and now this particular IP is still there, right? This IP is still there, and it says associated instance ID is nothing. Now it is not associated, right? Here allocation ID is there, but associated instance ID is not there. So now I want to get rid of it, because as soon as I disassociated, they started charging me. So I'll just release it, right? I'll just say released. No elastic IP address found in this region, right? So now it is clear, gone, right? So just try to take a look whenever you get a chance, read more about it, if you can have in-depth knowledge about whatever. So now you got the basic understanding of what is elastic IP address, right? How we can use it, how we can create it, how we can associate it, how we can disassociate it, right? So with all those knowledge that you have gained, we'll move to the next topic, right? And that is just about the EC2 storage concepts one more time, right? So just you have to tell me, right, what all options we are having for EC2 storage. So one thing is block storage, that is visible, right?
File storage,
What else?
volume,
Object storage, file storage.
Okay,
Object
okay.
storage, yes.
So with EC2, right, you got mainly 3 types of storage, that is block storage, file storage, and object storage, right?
One more type was there, right? That EC2
that
data.
No.
S3
No.
storage for Amazon, na? That
No,
No.
no type, no other type.
Okay.
Now, just remember only 3 types: block storage, file storage, object storage. Okay. Now, below this, whatever Shweta wanted to tell will be coming up under the block storage, that is.
Instance storage. Yes.
This is what you wanted to tell. Yeah.
comes under the
So that is under block storage, right? So this is instance store. So what is that instance store?
storage of instance.
Storage of instance. Simple, huh? Tell me. Anybody remembers? That is the,
Ephemerals were there. I
Correct.
mean, like,
that is the ephemeral storage, right? That is the local storage actually. So that is essentially block storage. That is essentially a block storage. This is something like your local storage. You have the host machine, right, on which instance will be running. Your instance is just a guest running on a host machine, right? So whatever is the storage associated with that particular hardware, that particular physical machine on which your virtual machine, your instance is running, right? So that particular storage, right, is called the EC2 instance store, right? You have access to that, right? And it can be available only to the instance that is running on that particular physical machine. This cannot go to some other instance. It cannot be detached and attached to some other instance which is running on some other hardware or something. So just understand this is a kind of local storage. What it is? Local storage. But having said that, your T2 micro, if you are looking for instance store, you will not get. It is limited to what? To certain types of instances. For every instance, they are not offering you because the price is already included in the cost of your EC2. So no additional charges, right? Whatever instance type you are choosing, right? Based on that, you will be getting it. So price will be included in the cost of the instance that you are choosing, right? So like C5D I was showing you, right? So C5D, if you look for, you will have one instance store, associated with that. So you can use that one, right? The benefit, is it useful? Is it fast? Can anybody think and tell? Should be fast?
It should be fast.
It should be fast because
It is
there's no network layer, right?
Yeah. There's no network. It's local to it. And
yes. So hardware will be accessed directly by the hypervisor, right? So you have your instance, you have hypervisor, right? And then you have HVM hypervisor, right? And the hardware is getting access directly, right? So it is really, really very fast, very high IO per second, right? Now, say like, but you know that this is ephemeral, right? When you stop your instance, whatever is there in that instance store volume, will that exist? Can you get it again? Tell me.
There is no guarantee.
It's not about no guarantee. It won't remain. See, if you are terminating your EC2 instance, whatever is there in EBS volume, you can retain it, correct?
Correct.
You won't terminate your EBS, you will keep it, right? Now, for this particular thing, if you are terminating your instance or you are stopping your instance, even you are stopping it, correct? That's it. Once you stop one instance, is there any relation between the host machine and in your instance? Any relation?
No.
You stopped it. No relation, no entity, nothing exists related to your instance. Your instance is stopped. That's it. No relation between the hardware and your instance. No relation means you will have no data. Whatever is there available with your hardware, that is gone. Right?
There was
So,
an option, right, in which we could have selected.
option you have to implement on your own, Shweta. You have to write, take a backup. You have to write some script. You have to write some functions. You can take a copy of it. You can make a synchronous copy of whatever thing is there in instance store, and then you can recover from that. All those things you have to make arrangements for, right? But by default, this is as it is. Whatever it is given to you as it is. So for that, if you want no durability, please go for EBS. If you want no other systems to access, right, please go for EFS, right? If you are looking for object storage type, right, please go for S3 where you can use it directly using HTTP. So it's like based on the use case, right, based on the purpose, you have the flexibility. But if you are very much convinced and very much interested in using instance store, you can use it. You can try to find out the way, right, how to make the data inside that instance store durable. It's not durable, right? Not at all durable, right? So if you look for some third-party tools, you can find Shweta on the net. So you can find some third-party tool if you are really interested. If you are very much interested in the IO per second that it is offering, and if you are really interested, right? So many workload they are using it, right? You have various third-party tool, or you can develop some homegrown script or something. So based on that, you can make an option for taking a backup and then recovery, right? So you can take things, right? You can make it useful for you. Another important part that we have discussed, right, is EBS, right? So various options are there under EBS, right? So under that file storage, what we have discussed is EFS for our Linux instances, and Shweta also told about FSX, right? So you just explore. Just I am limiting myself to EFS for file storage, and for object storage S3, right? That you have seen. Under that EBS, you just take a division into two types: current generation and the previous generation, right? So all the new generations of the systems are getting the current generation volume types. Under that, you have SSD and SDD. Which one is faster?
SSD.
SSD, right? Now, that SSD is very crucial for any kind of workload which is transactional in nature, right? Which requires higher what? IO. Higher IO, input output, too much of transactions. So SSD will be very fast. And I'll tell you, my machine, my system, it hardly takes 30 seconds or maybe 40 seconds. I have not exactly estimated, but I would say 30 seconds to boot. 30, I just press the button, power off or power on. It takes hardly 30 to 40 seconds and my system is up. So that much fast, right? This SSD is, right? So you can also use it for boot volume with SSD. Right? We have that GP2, right? For EC2.
Yeah.
So that GP2 is SSD only.
Yes.
Right? So just see, under SSD, we have the very first thing called GP2, general purpose SSD. Right? So this is, as the name suggests, general purpose. Price should be moderate as compared to the provision IOPS SSD. Right? So that provision IOPS will be having highest possible performance. Under that SSD also, you have now two choices. Earlier we had only IO1 until August this year. So I was looking at what is new at Amazon and then what is new at AWS or something. So suddenly I saw, oh, maybe after 2-3 days I saw on 27th or 28th of August, I saw that, okay, one more came. So I just saw a blog. So I found that, oh, IO2 also came with increased performance, right? Better IO, right? And no, same price. Got it? Same price. That IO1 and IO2 both have the same price, but better durability, right? And better IOPS per GB. Got it? So like that you got the benefit. Now, so where you will use this IO1, IO2? Now you say IO2 only. So where you will use that provision IOPS? And where you will use GP2? Just think of some use cases, some difference or something. Say like this GP2, right? If you have that, what? Development environment or pre-production, you can use GP2, right?
Yes.
If it is mission critical production environment, we can go for this provision IOPS, IO2, right? Correct? Say like you have some RDBMS, some relational database, some MySQL, some Oracle, right? Now you want very high IOPS, 64,000 up to 64,000 they will give you IO per second. So very high IOPS you will get in provisioned IOPS. This will be lesser, right? But it's a good balance of price and the what performance. So this is good for beginning development or production or something. This is good. This is for production or something you can use. Apart from that, just take a look at HDD. Still this is in use. That means there must be some benefit out of it. What is that? This is for throughput intensive workload. Each workload cannot be IO bound. Each workload is not transactional, right? There are requirements where you want to do, say like I was giving some example last time about the log processing. You want to just put some logs, you want to process that. So what you can do, you can go for throughput optimize. You want to put huge data, right? But it's not transactional in nature, right? So you can go for throughput optimized hard disk drive. So that is meant for what? Throughput. You still remember what is throughput? How much data can be transferred in a particular time? You're there, anybody?
Yes, output
Yeah.
per second.
This is kind of how much data has been transferred, right, to the disk in a given time. Throughput. Now, cold HDD, as the name suggests, cold one, right? Cold means what? Kind of not that fast, right? It won't be so, your data, whatever you are keeping there, that maybe you want infrequent access, kind of. In S3 you have no infrequent. Similar to that, you just think you are not accessing it very frequently, right? But this is the lowest cost HDD. This cold HDD is the lowest cost as compared to all other types, right? Cheaper than this ST1 also, right? So just try to look for all these types. What are the use cases? What are the pricing? Just take a look. No pricing, no questions will be asked from the price and all. What is the exact price or something? But at the same time, you have to understand that which one is better in performance, and again, which one is costlier. Say like this will be costlier, provisioned one. Then comes this GP2 one. Then this ST1 will come. Then this SC1 will come. So you should have some understanding, some figure, some competitive numbers in your mind, right? So this ST1 you can use for say like kind of data warehouse, right? Big data, right? So all those things, this is utilized, this SDD1. This cold SDD1 for something which is very less frequently used. And last one, that is magnetic SDD. So that is for previous generation volume type. So that is magnetic SDD. Now it's not coming for the new systems, right? Still it is in use for the older systems and some of the regions, right? So it's like cheapest possible, you can say, but not an option for each and every kind of volume that you are taking, right? For the instances, right? So this is cheaper one. So here again the IOPS and throughput and all those things will be lesser. This is the normal magnetic hard disk drive. So please try to go through the options, right? Did I share the link in previous class? I think last to last class.
For storage, right?
Yeah, EBS storage type.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so please go through the link, right, for EBS volume types, right, and try to learn more about it. What are the use cases? How we can utilize, in which situation we can utilize, right? So please go through that, right? I'll just try to find the link one more time for you. So it should be EBS volume types. Just look for EBS volume types. So this is the one. Okay. So go through in detail for the EBS volume types. You see the characteristics. You will see a table here, right? So volume characteristics, volume type, GP2, IO2, IO1, right? Under provisioned one. You see here volume type EBS. Under that you have what? SSD and then HDD, right? Now under SSD you have what? GP2 and then provisioned one. Under provision, these two things. Then throughput, then cold HDD, right? So you just see, just take a look, comparative look on this table and try to understand the various use cases, right? And the speed and the performance and the IOPS and the price, all those information, just try to, and the previous generation you see here, the magnetic one, right? So this is what I have depicted this particular diagram. Just see this, right? And try to relate this to this particular table, right? So please go through this, right? So this is the enough information that you will have from even the examination point of view, right? As I have been telling earlier that